Around 2 weeks ago, I shot and edited a small teaser for a new climbing gym. This was a lot of fun to do, and I'll be talking a little bit about how that went down. My name's John, by the way, and if this is your first time here, hello, and welcome to my little corner here in YouTube. So my task was simple. My friend Jolo, one of the managers of BHive Bouldering Gym, asked me to help shoot the opening event of their new branch and to edit a 30-second short to showcase said event, and of course to tease the opening of the new gym. The sport of climbing has been growing here in the Philippines, and it's great to see new gyms pop up around the country, especially one that's so close to home. And as climbing and filmmaking are two of my favorite things, I just couldn't resist. So I'll be talking about pre-planning and gear, my experience shooting the event, and I'll be sharing some tips all throughout the video if you're doing something similar. It's a lot to unpack, so let's get into it. Now, I'm no stranger to climbing events. I've shot a few competitions before, and they can get really tiring. But this was a smaller and more chill shoot, and at least I already knew what to expect from a climbing point of view. Still, I wanted to capture all the great climbing moments as much as I could, especially with my new camera, so I made sure to prepare a mental list of things I wanted to capture during the day. This included a one-take POV from the entrance of the gym all the way to the climbing walls, shots of different styles of climbing from static to more dynamic, shots that showcase the walls and all the shiny new holds, and of course, a staple of climbing vids, close-ups of scrunched up fingers and shoes on tiny ass holds. It's always good to have a list of these things because you don't want to go into a shoot and just figure it out on the fly, which is what I kinda did when I first volunteered to shoot for a climbing competition. I still got great shots and was able to do a great edit, but for me, it's always hard to put together that project in the edit when you just have a bunch of shots you really didn't plan out. I also went through YouTube and looked at a few professionally shot climbing videos and films to take inspiration from. And one such shot was the slow-mo spinning shot to a dyno from the Beats by Dre ad with Miho Nonaka. She's one of my favorite climbers, by the way. I really love this and wanted to try if I could capture a similar style or something close to it, and I'll show you some of our attempts later in the video. I also did a tiny bit of storyboarding just so I could visualize the shots more clearly and so that I could remember them during the day of the shoot. For my gear, I brought my usual, my Sony FX3, Sony 24-70 f2.8 lens, Zhiyun Weebill 2 gimbal, batteries, a set of ND filters, and my charger. Additionally, I brought my Rode Video Mic Pro and Rode Lav 2. Now, I normally don't bring my lav mic, but there have been a few cases where I needed or wanted to record voiceover or an interview during one of these events, and the Rode shotgun mic sometimes isn't the best option, because these events can get pretty loud and it'll be harder to isolate the vocals. And since this lav mic is so small, it was an easy decision to just bring it with me. And we did actually get to use it. I also knew this was going to be an event where I didn't have much control with the setting, so I needed a run and gun setup where I could shoot handheld for capturing those fast moments easily. Switch to my gimbal for those smoother shots and longer takes which I could control, and then back again to handheld when the need arose. And this is where this Falcom quick release plate really comes in handy. I have one mounted on my gimbal, and this way I can easily switch my camera back and forth without having to fumble around with tightening screws. Before we move on, if you're enjoying this so far, please do subscribe, like, and leave a comment. I really appreciate all the things that you guys write and try to respond as much as I can. And yeah, thank you very much. So on the day of the shoot, aside from being surprised by the turnout, I was also very much surprised by the gym itself. I love the directionality of the design, the space in between the mats for climbers to rest in between climbs, and all the nice big holds and volumes. And of course, this big overhanging cave, which has been a dream of mine to be able to climb something like it. It made me feel like I was in a climbing gym in a different country without having to leave the country. I do want to go on a vacation though. And as people were starting to arrive and begin to climb, I quickly got to shooting. And I've always found it challenging to compose in setups like this because when you have a big crowd, the shots can get a little too cluttered. And of course, I want to show off the amount of people. This is an opening event after all, but at the same time, I want to be able to frame the climbers and their climbing really well. So this is where having a good versatile lens comes in, and I've just been loving the 24-70 for this type of shooting. Being able to switch from a wide angle to a close-up without having to change lenses really is a lifesaver. Because in my previous setup with my A7 III, I had a bunch of prime lenses that I had to switch around, and that can really waste a lot of time. Or worse, you can end up not capturing a great moment. Of course, there were some times where I kinda miss having an f1.8 or f1.4 aperture lens to really separate the subject from the background and get that localicious bokeh. But I think having the versatility of the zoom lens is really something I would rather prioritize in an event like this. Besides, having a really nice prime lens, which I don't have right now, can be a problem for future me to worry about. Ow! In these site setups, by the way, and this goes for everyone filming or just even walking around, we really have to be extra careful to watch out for climbers doing a climb or jumping down, because we don't want to get anyone injured, whether it's us or the climber. I've also set up my camera so that I have one of my memory recall slots for shooting in a 120p frame rate for capturing slow motion, perfect for those dynamic moves, and another memory slot in a 24p frame rate for everything else, and especially for those shots where I wanted to do a little bit of stabilization during post. I've been using the Catalyst Brow software for doing these, and it's been great for handling a bunch of different scenarios, and I've just been incorporating this into my workflow more and more. For shoots like these, I also have to remind myself to not be afraid to connect with people, to ask them to smile for a shot or even redo a climb. I'm naturally a more introverted person, and I really do need to bring out my extroverted self in shoots like these so I can capture more human moments. I have to say that I'm very lucky that I have a lot of great friends in the community who are willing to be my subjects and who came to the event. So thank you to everyone for letting me shoot you with my camera. But also, if you don't know anyone, don't be afraid, don't be shy. You're there to capture great moments, so just be nice and ask for permission. Now going back to this shot, we had to do a couple of attempts. It was harder than I realized, but it was a matter of using the vortex mode of the gimbal to get the spinning shot, doing several takes, and eventually we got something pretty close. This dino by super powerful climber Reiki. However, I actually ended up liking this other take more, near the top of the climb with the vortex mode angled from below, from other super powerful climber and great friend Abs, really emphasizing the movement of the climb. So this is where it's great to take inspiration from someone else, but also, put your own spin on it. We also needed to do a quick interview with the owners of the gym, and thankfully I had the lav mic with me because music was playing all across the gym. And even after transferring outside, it was still pretty loud, but the lav mic was able to get really good audio.
When we went to Singapore, I was actually really inspired seeing all the different gyms, and I just felt excited to open another gym because I thought that we could do it bigger and better.
So we looked into how could we build a BHive here in Greenhills, and then it took a while. There were plenty of delays and struggles. Then we started construction in February and actually pulled off to construct it in 4 months.
So whenever I go to a shoot, I always try to anticipate the things that can happen, the things that can go wrong, and everything else in between, and try to prepare for it. Finally, and I always say this in all situations, have fun. Connect with people. Because filming events can be exhausting, but having that connection and bringing in that fun aspect can really help to lighten the situation and keep you going. And yeah, that's about it. I had a blast editing all of this together, creating the 30-second short with some Spider-Verse effects, and then editing an extended cut to really showcase the gym and the climbs. So feel free to check those out if you haven't yet. I'll put some links in the description below. Well, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this little behind the scenes of my last video. Now it's time for me to go back to my past self. Bye!